Hi, Joanne Wright Callender, the author of the Happy Little Garbage Truck Picture Book and Educational Program. I'm doing a series this week on different things that one can do at home to increase a child's ability to focus, have fun, and enjoy the learning process. Um, the interesting thing that I found is in the sensory input areas that we constantly focused on it in my classroom. And I had the benefit of the support and I guess training of some fantastic occupational therapists. So, what I'm doing this week, the series is about some of the things that I learned, and I'm also looking online for more current information. And I've included the link in the end of this description box for the OT that I received some of the most current information from for this particular um, video. Now, while I'm not an OT, I've seen what this type of assistance, when you give a child sensory input, what it does for a child in my classroom. I've seen children who had difficulty focusing, had frequent meltdowns, have an extended period of really good chunks of time that they're able to work. And that's why I talk a lot about sensory diets because when you, even before you see your child becoming deregulated, if you insert a few of these activities during the day, then you will see your child, from my experience, have longer periods, good periods of being more comfortable in their skin. That's the way that we described it. The child seems happier, more attentive, um, less distracted, more upbeat, focused. So um, this is this particular video is on the vestibular system. Now, before I talk about some of, and it's no, not a whole lot of things that I saw about the vestibular activities, but they were all specific about a certain chunk. But before we go into that, I just wanted to say that of all of these sensory input areas, this particular system, the vestibular area, is one where the OT suggests that you be very mindful of this, how your child is receiving the input because um, we're encouraged not to push the child too far, just as I said, with proprioceptive. But even if your child seems to be enjoying the sensory input from these activities, really closely monitor them to see if they're really having some sensory overload issues that could be dilated pupils, sweaty palms, breathing irregularly, or some disorientation. So that's the little caveat that you really need to watch your child to see how they're receiving this input and not to go really far in advance with it, but just take it slowly, step by step. One of the wonderful things that I realized is that once a child's vestibular sensory input is in place, it doesn't diminish. It keeps building on itself. Now, the vestibular sensory development and the sensory diet that we're looking into is one that builds balance and equilibrium and self-regulation and adjusting to sensory input. Now, this operates through the inner ear, and a child who has difficulty with the vestibular area are usually the children who have visual processing issues, like understanding and remembering what they've read or what they've just seen. I like this old game called Husker Du, where you have like little tiles that you turned over, and the child has to remember where they saw the last one. Uno, kind of remembering what you have in your hand and what was placed down. Just different memory games seem to be really helpful in that. But visual motor eye hand coordination is also an area where you'll see that a child might need some vestibular stimulation or sensory input. Poor equilibrium, balance beam kind of things, or just walking in a straight line, and trouble negotiating action sequences. One other site also mentioned poor construction abilities, like you show a little, maybe a Lego kind of thing that's already built, and the child is trying to match it or build a similar type of thing. So you can see that there is some vestibular uh, input needed for children who exhibit those types of difficulties. But one thing that one, and I included this particular OT's site, she said that the things that we used to do, she said 100 years ago, like running around, rolling, climbing, jumping, were the things that were building our vestibular system, our input sensory system. But today, with most of the children, now that school is online, usually don't get a chance to do things like that. So she suggests that we try to build in as much play as possible, and that's one area. Now, also, movement activities like dancing, you could do freeze dance in the home, yoga, and that's a really good one for position and space. But swinging is the one activity that has been suggested is very, very effective. And I think that's the area where you really need to watch a child's reaction afterwards. So I'm going to end this talk right now. I have some construction outside. So rather than have that disturb our conversation, we'll see you tomorrow. And I thank you for tuning in. Bye bye.